everybody. Happy Saturday. I am here with Dr. John Lay, and I am Jessie Pires, RD2B. We are on another episode of LaydBackFitness, and today we are going to get into some heart health and talk about some fun facts and just some interesting goodies that we'd love to share with you guys. So, John, first off, how's your week been? Icebreaker.
My week in general has been pretty good. Some of the workout stuff I've done has sucked, but I've had a good week. How about you? Why don't you tell us something good?
So I'm proud of you that you're continuing. If you guys have been following us since the beginning, John has been doing some running and he's still with it. So, that's a plus in my book. I'm good. I'm super sore today. Today was cool. I did a lot of functional fitness at the gym. So it kind of brought me back to my CrossFit days. So it was nice. Felt a little pumped into that. So
you did thrusters. So
kettlebells. That's
way more than
everybody. John taught me some kettlebell snatches today, something I've always struggled with, and it was really cool because I did it for like the first time, and now I know why he loves them. So good deal. Good stuff today. Okay, guys, so let's really dive into heart health. And John, I'm going to have you lead off and I'll just comment.
Well, I think, the biggest thing about heart health and why it's so important is year after year, it's the number one killer of people in the United States. Mm-hmm. I've seen a meme around, it shows up here and there. I'd say a lot of people out there have seen it that says a sedentary lifestyle will kill more people this year than smoking.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people don't think about things that way. A lot of people will tell you smoking's bad. Even the people who are addicted to it, smoke 2 or 3 packs a day, will tell you it's not healthy. They just haven't figured out how to get off of it yet. Right.
Yeah.
But they also don't understand that just hanging out, sitting, whether it's at the office or when they get home, sitting on the couch, watching Netflix or whatever it is that they watch. This time of year, it's going to be football, right?
Yeah.
How that is doing so much damage to their bodies too.
Yes.
So I think one of the most important things that people need to understand about heart health is, one, you've got to move. And we've touched on this before in another episode, that just move a little more than you are now, right? If you're not moving at all, get out and walk for 10, 15 minutes. And until you can do 20 minutes, until you can do 30. I don't know that you ever even have to get to the point where you run. I'll tell you this, you couldn't convince me right now running's healthy. By what I've been doing lately. That crap is just, that's a whole other story. But get out and do something. And then if you get to the point where you're inspired to get to the gym and start doing some stuff, working on some strength and stuff like that, do that. But start somewhere and get out and start to move. And then clean up your diet. And that's what some of this stuff is going to be about today. But, one of the things, and I have an old man memory, so I had to print some of this stuff out, but shut up, Red. That one person dies from cardiovascular disease every 40 seconds. So since we started this thing,
yeah,
there's been a few people that have died from it.
Absolutely. Scary.
And it starts young. One out of 3 deaths is from cardiovascular disease. 25% of children 5 and older already have plaque building up in their arteries. And, people wonder why, but look at some of the kids out there, right? I mean, you've studied nutrition.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen it in practice. I mean, how many kids out there are they're sedentary, they're overweight. All they do is drink Cokes and eat little Debbie snack cakes and potato chips and stuff like that, because, either their parents are working and not around, or, I've got people in my family that, that's just what they like. They don't like anything else. Well, that's because they're addicted to that sugar, and that's, because they've been allowed to have it. Those are going to be some things that need to change with that person, or you're setting them up for heart issues, type 2 diabetes, all these things coming up, and they're 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that already. So
I'm gonna comment on a couple things that you said.
Please.
I love this. This says, the more lifestyle areas that are addressed in someone's life, whether they're a child or an adult or even elderly, the more chances of diseases are decreased. So going back to children, since 2020, since COVID and everything's been shut down and all the good stuff, there has been a 27% increase of childhood obesity. Okay. And since then, it's now almost more like a lifestyle. The kids got used to being home, doing school online, not going out and on the playground, whatever. So I feel like with heart disease, I wish we were taught this when we were younger. And some of us maybe were. Again, it comes with demographics, and that's a whole nother subject. But I feel like we're taught when we're younger what happens if you have heart disease? What happens if you have diabetes? What happens if you have hypertension, high cholesterol, whatever? Why aren't we teaching young kids and young adults prevention? I think prevention starting younger, and voices like me and you to just implement ways to not even get to heart disease or diabetes or whatever. And I feel like people go to the doctor when things are bad. Why aren't there other and there is doctors yourself and, dietitians, like me soon, that are let's get this and nip this in the butt before it even starts. And I think that is what's happening in the world, is just a lot of people are lazy, and a lot of people don't know. They don't know that heart disease starts when you're young, like you said. They don't know that 6 sodas a day, you may not see any effect after a year, 2 years, 3 years, but it's going to get you down the line. And like you said, sugar is addicting. It is like crack. It's addicting. There have been studies that have said sugar is just as addictive as drugs, because it is. Your body craves it. And then when you pull away from it, it's like your body tries to detox it, but then you're just going to go and get another Coke or whatever. So I think, like you said, just with heart disease, it's the number one killer. And it really is all about lifestyle modification, proper way of eating, moving. And I love what you said about just move more. I think when people, think about working out, a lot of people get scared. A lot of people don't know, they think they have to join a gym. And we've said this before on other podcasts, but the outside is free. The outside is free. You get some nice vitamin D, you get some nice sunshine, even walking your dog more instead of letting him out in the backyard. Let's go walk around the block. That's huge for people. So I think heart disease is just, I know it's definitely, up in the disease markers, but I think even now more than ever, it's rising, and we're seeing it happen in younger people. And it's so sad. It gives me the chills of how, just what an epidemic it is,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, even another stat for young people out there is 60% of 15 to 19-year-olds are starting to develop plaque in their coronary artery,
Wow.
which is supplying their heart.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so like you said, it is showing up earlier and earlier with people,
Yep.
more and more. It is because I think that there's a lack of fitness with a lot of people who are young, and with poor nutrition, poor diet habits at home, or at school, or wherever. But it's it's something that needs to change early. But let's say that you were one of those 15 to 19-year-olds, but now you're 30, 35, 40. It's not too, you've had that for a long time and probably done some damage in there, but it's not too late to start to change.
Correct. I agree with that. It's never too late, and honestly.
And there are genetic factors.
Oh yeah.
With a lot of this.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
But
definitely.
I think a lot of those can be changed. There's a doctor I know. Honestly, I'd like to have him on one of our podcasts sometime. And his family, every male in his family, when we get him on, he'll tell it. But I think somewhere in their 40s had a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
And possibly fatal. I think his dad died when he was in his 40s. And Ben was very young at that point. And he could have just given up and kind of had, hey, this is my genetics. This is probably what I should expect. But he's not that kind of guy, right? He's somebody I've got kids now. My kids aren't going to go through what I went through. I want to make sure that I'm around for them.
I love it.
And he is extremely healthy, eats extremely well, exercises, and he's my age now, so he's 55. He's got a couple of kids. One kid maybe graduated college, one kid in college, and another son that's coming up. And there's no signs of him having any issues like that. And he's obviously raising his kids like that too. So hopefully they'll make better decisions as they grow up. But you can turn around that genetic trend in your family.
Yes.
If you decide that you're going to do it and you don't just give into it.
Yeah. I love that. No, that's cool. Ever since, not to toot my own horn, but ever since I went to school to become a dietitian, it's changed my family's life too, for sure. In such a positive way. And it's so crazy because a lot of it, they just didn't know. They just didn't know, like getting into cholesterol. Like my grandma was always said, like, yeah, you have high cholesterol. Here's some pills. Yeah. Or whatever. She didn't know that cholesterol, people are like, oh, cholesterol is bad. And we have that here. It's really not. We need cholesterol. Cholesterol is so needed, not just at the maximum numbers that most people have. Cholesterol, especially what I was, taught in school, we need it for our hormones. It's so important for our tissues, our mood, energy, memory, and all that. Can get into more, but I don't know. And it's crazy because the stigma is like, I just wish we were taught younger. Like why collect like something as simple as cholesterol. Like I wish people knew, like at a younger age, not maybe like teens, but I don't know, maybe in high school, like what is cholesterol? Like, like numbers and values like we have here, like what are our so when they get older and they start to get blood work, they can like see, wow, maybe I'm really great. This is awesome. And I don't know. I just feel like it's so much education that I wish we knew at a younger age. I mean, do you feel that same way with something like even as simple as cholesterol numbers?
I think yes, but so you're quite a bit younger than me. And a lot of these things were known for you at a fairly young age. When I was growing up, that information wasn't necessarily out there.
Okay.
About really what, HDL, LDL cholesterols and things like that, at least to the general public. Like you could talk to more people on the street now and they would at least know there's an HDL and an LDL cholesterol. They may not really know which is the good cholesterol and which is the bad cholesterol and all that kind of stuff, but they would have heard of it. I don't think when I was growing up that many people would have heard of those things.
Yeah.
Because that information wasn't as available.
Okay.
We didn't have, my kids just marvel at the fact that we didn't have computers, right? If we wanted to do research, we went to the library and found a microfiche and we had to search through all the newspaper articles and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can just find something, you carry the world around in your pocket all day long.
I know.
So some of that, yes, I wish we knew it at a younger age, but some of it now is just information so more ready. People should know it at this point, or should be able to research it if they care to. Now, again, we get back to lifestyle choices, I think, with a lot of people, and they just want to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And do what they want, and consequences be damned, and we'll deal with that later down the road.
Yeah.
And that's some of that can be brought back to pharmaceutical companies. We've got a drug for everything, right?
Yep.
You don't hear a lot about it in mainstream media.
Mm-mm.
About ways to prevent things like that. We found that going through Rona that nobody talked about different ways to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Going through that.
Can you tell me a little bit about, and this is like just for me too to learn, because I learned so much from you. Tell me about like cholesterol medication. Like, tell me why you think it leaves the problem unsolved. Like, when most people go, you have high cholesterol, here's some medicine. Why do you think that is more of the, I guess, prescription versus a doctor or whatever, saying, let's try some lifestyle change? Tell me why cholesterol medicine is not good.
Well,
I don't know.
So every drug that you put in your body has some sort of an effect.
Okay.
Right. And I typically try not to use side effect because I think it's just an effect. One effect may be that it lowers your cholesterol, but there are other effects that are happening along the way.
Okay.
That don't get measured. So some of the things with cholesterol medication is it can cause liver damage. It can contribute to neuropathy. You can contribute to, say, joint pain, ligament rupture, even muscle atrophy or wasting away, and eventually heart failure. Now, your heart is a muscle.
It is a muscle.
So if your muscles are wasting, it's not just going to waste your biceps; it's going to waste all your muscles,
right?
Which includes your heart, right? So, and you think about a lot of those things. So, neuropathy. How many people out there develop neuropathy at a midlife to later in life, but they're on a cholesterol medication? They don't put those two together.
Nope, they don't.
Joint pain, right? I got arthritis. That's just arthritis, and that's probably what their medical doctor is going to tell them too.
Yes.
He's not going to say this could be an effect from the Lipitor we've got you on. We'll just need to give you some arthritis medication too. Yep. So now you're compounding all those different things.
More medication. Yeah.
And muscle wasting. As people get older, they get weaker.
Oh yeah.
And so they can just start to think, well, this is just part of me getting older, but maybe it's not. So those are just some of the things that I dislike about trying to take care of anything with medication right off the bat, but certainly with cholesterol and these things.
So what cholesterol medication, we're talking about statins. So statins, that's funny you say. I know you didn't say side effects. What did you say? You don't like to use
I just said effects.
Effects. I like that. So my grandmother, 76 years old, high cholesterol, doctor put her on statins. Okay. And she was on statins for a week and 4 days, and she could not get out of bed. I mean, just swollen and I've never seen my grandma like that before. She's a very healthy 76-year-old woman, but the doctor.
Is Mima? Is that right?
Mima.
Mima.
She's my Mima. She's like my mother. She raised me. She's everything to me. So I'm like, what is going on? She was swollen. She was like, it was a bad thing. So we went back to the doctor and he's like, okay, what did he do? We tried another statin. Same issue, John. Like literally, John, a week, she was swollen. I had to literally lift her out of bed. This is a woman that some days is better than me. We changed doctors because he's like, oh, you probably have rheumatoid arthritis. Like you're going to need to go see blah, 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 blah. So we changed her primary care doctor, found a phenomenal guy, doctor. And literally he was like, absolutely not. You are not touching statins. So he took her off of statins and went more of the holistic route, which was awesome. And there's this compound, it's a herb per se. It's red rice yeast, which is awesome. Okay. And he's like, look, you're going to do this. It's 3 pills a day for 2 weeks. And then we're going to go get blood work and we're going to see your levels. I'm not even kidding you. In 3 days, she was up, she was moving. She did not have the pain, the inflammation that she, was on from the statins. And she's been on red rice yeast ever since and hasn't even touched it.
That's awesome. You said red rice yeast?
Yeah, red rice yeast. It's amazing. So I never heard about it until her doctor recommended it. And then I, of course, being a nerd, did my research. And it's a holistic traditional Chinese medicine that they used back then. And it's like you ferment a certain type of yeast and it's poured over red rice. And then the rice, that specific rice with the yeast mixture has been shown to lower cholesterol levels, improve blood flow, and even aid in digestion, which was funny because my grandma, she actually threw up a couple times, unfortunately, when she was on the statins. And it's literally been a lifesaver. And the doctor that she goes to now, he starts all his patients on red rice yeast, which is awesome. So, like you said, just with cholesterol, circling back around to that, cholesterol is good. We need cholesterol in our body. I mean, it's not bad, but just at the levels that the people are at.
Yeah.
So, crazy.
It's probably the biggest, bigger issue than say cholesterol is going to be triglycerides.
Okay.
With a lot of that, but some other things, memory loss and depression, can be other effects of being on the statins. Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things too. So that's the depression is what popped into my head when you first said that she couldn't get out of bed, because I was thinking that, but I hate that she was swollen. It's funny how they get married to these things. This is not a cholesterol example, but I had a patient several years ago who fibromyalgia, and so they put her on Lyrica.
Yep. Go to.
And she had an allergic reaction to the Lyrica, and she went back to her medical doctor, and her medical doctor actually said he figured out, hey, you had an allergic reaction to your Lyrica,
Mhm.
right? Great. A lot of them don't say that. What did he tell her to do? Quit taking it for a week and then start back. And so that she ended up coming to our office after that. But and I think a lot of them don't, and I don't want to speak bad about medical doctors. I just think a lot of them get to the point where they had so many patients and they got so much information thrown at them, they don't know any difference.
No, they don't. They don't.
I've talked to medical doctors before about patients that have chronic headaches, and they don't know what to do with them other than put them on meds to try to knock those headaches out.
Exactly.
So when it comes to stuff like this, I think, this other doc, the first doc that you guys are seeing, he may not have probably had no idea about the red rice yeast, right?
Nope.
So all he knows is drugs, because that's all he's been educated in.
Correct.
So that's where he's going to go. So I think it's really important to find you a doc that goes more natural with some things before they jump into something that's got to be medical or pharmaceutical, we'll say.
Can you tell me, in relation to statins, it's funny, there's a commercial out about CoQ10. Take CoQ10, it's gonna, whatever, it's gonna be good for you. Okay. So in regards to statins, tell me a little bit about, so from my point of view, CoQ10 is in relation to helping convert food to energy. CoQ10 is like, we love CoQ10 in our body. So I know from my schooling, it's inhibited, so no more when you are now taking statins. So from my point of view, the muscles can't get all the energy that they need. And then like you said, it causes weakness, fatigue, malaise, da, 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 da. So tell me about the importance of CoQ10 from your perspective.
Well, I think you pretty much hit it all. It's in there. I mean, it's, it acts as an antioxidant in our body, which is needed to transfer that energy that is found in our cells. And it gets inhibited by those statin drugs and can lead to strokes, can lead to heart attacks. Partly because of the muscle wasting, it's not there to be able to help develop those muscles and keep them strong and healthy.
Wow. Crazy.
So
it's so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, our brain, 60% of our brain is made up of cholesterol. Right. So if somewhere down the road, they're going to probably find links to statin drugs and Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
I would think, because if you put somebody on statins really early, and they take them for a long time, let's say they get all their cholesterol numbers down, but again, brain tissue is made up of 60% of that is cholesterol. You decrease that, you're going to decrease the effectiveness of the brain, and then you're going to start having that memory loss and so on and so forth. So I don't want to sound like I think there's never a time for drug intervention.
Correct.
Right. But I don't think it should be the first option unless it's an emergency issue.
I love that, John. I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot diagnose, but I agree with you wholeheartedly that there might be a time and place when a patient might need to be on some sort of medication. And right now we're talking about statins, but it shouldn't be the first, like you said, the first diagnosis. The doctor, the dietitian, whatever, let's look at their lifestyle. Let's look at maybe like, my grandma's new doctor, some holistic functional, some things that are just a little bit different than just prescribing a patient some statins. And then, maybe they're on statins for a little while. I've seen that too. I've heard that too, where patients are on statins, but then the doctor and the dietitian works on lifestyle modifications, and they're only on it for a short period of time. So I've kind of seen both ends, but I agree with you that I don't think it should be the first diagnosis for sure.
And if you've got to be on them, then don't just think that the statin is going to do all your work, right?
Correct. Yes.
Find you a good CoQ10.
Yes.
And supplement with it. It's probably not going to be one that you see advertised on TV.
Correct.
Definitely. And I'm a little biased by that, but I think most things that are advertised on TV probably aren't the best absorbed, best utilized, and then and change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Change what you eat. Again, get out and move.
Yep.
Those kinds of things. So the next time you go get a checkup, hey, yes, my cholesterol is down, but all these other health factors are showing up and better too.
Yeah.
So, and if you've got a good doc, they'll start to wean you off some of those things.
Absolutely. My next couple, getting into continuing with what we were speaking about and kind of moving on into heart safety. So I know personally, working with you with my gut, you have helped me with some food allergy testing. You've helped my fiance and just testing in general. So let's talk about some testing with heart health. I don't even think I think people just normally say, let me go get my blood drawn and look at all the numbers, but give me some education or give me some, some markers for inflammation that you can test.
Yeah. So a big thing with heart disease is going to be inflammation. Right. And, so what's tested is going to be CRP. And so if your CRP levels are high, then you've got inflammation in your body. And again, I think we mentioned this on a previous episode that, we're not talking about you've twisted your ankle kind of inflammation. We're talking about just overall body. You're in an inflamed state, which means you're more apt to get some sort of disease state in your body.
Okay.
So the CRP markers are high. CRP stands for C-reactive protein.
Yep.
So if that is high, we need to get that down. You want to check your omega-3 levels. You need to check your vitamin D. We talked about that before.
Yes.
And your homocysteine should be checked. So again, you want to look at your cholesterol, your triglyceride levels for sure, yep. HDL, LDL, and that's really a ratio that you want to look at there. DNA can be checked.
Cool.
Again, see if there's some sort of genetic marker there. If there is, then we got to be more strict about checking some of these things. And then the food allergy test, like you just mentioned.
Yep.
And it's not, again, some people say, well, I'm allergic to, let's say you got a nut allergy, right? And it's very severe. You eat them, your tongue swells up.
Anaphylactic. Yeah. You get all
right. You're going into all that.
Oof.
Not talking about that. It's more of a sensitivity.
Correct.
To some foods.
Yes.
And what that means is these foods can lead to inflammation in your body. They could be perfectly healthy foods for somebody else.
Yes.
The guy I mentioned earlier, he loves avocados. He's got a sensitivity to avocados. I love eggs. Now, he told me one time, he said 90% of the people he's ever checked have a sensitivity to eggs.
I've heard that too from you. Yeah.
Well, so I almost didn't have that tested because I didn't want to know that I was sensitive to eggs.
Let me just not know.
Yeah, thankfully I'm not. You know, thankfully for me, the things I'm sensitive in are things I don't eat anyway.
Yeah,
Like cottage cheese. I mean, who wants to eat curdled milk? Um,
I love cottage cheese.
it's just awful.
With some peaches
Um,
on top. Woo! I love how you
but
said that though, food allergies to evaluate the gut and cause inflammation. Like this, I know we're speaking about the gut, but like you said, this is inflammation. It's not just, ow, I hurt my elbow. It's just inflammation of the entire body. And I'm like all in my goodies because I love how food is related back to heart disease,
mhm.
or issues like you said. I'm sensitive to oatmeal. I love oatmeal.
Oh,
Love.
I forgot. There is one thing that I am sensitive to that I do eat, and that is oats.
Yes, me too. And it sucks because I love it, but that can even now you have inflammation, in relation to heart disease, but now you're eating these foods that causes more inflammation and it's just a full circle. So I love how you said that. Um this is awesome. I love how you can test all these levels in relation for heart disease. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and if you've got it, and whoever does the testing for you can usually probably then set you up on a protocol
Yeah.
um, to help raise these levels, lower these levels,
Yeah.
whatever the case needs to happen. I saw a note down here, and I think this was something that you told me was that 41% of adults with dementia are attributed to hypertension, obesity, and low physical activity, right?
Same. Yes.
And going back to food sensitivity, there are probably people that will watch this that or listen to it that are trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
I'm getting out, I'm moving, I'm getting out, I'm cutting my calories, I'm doing the things that I think I should do, but maybe you are sensitive to
Yeah.
some things.
Yeah.
I've got a friend whose wife developed a sensitivity to kale,
Wow.
and some other vegetables, and I don't know what well, I've got a theory on why some of that happens, um, but it wasn't for. It took them a while to figure that out. So she essentially has dropped. There are very few vegetables that she eats right now.
Wow.
Just trying
Yeah.
to cleanse herself of that. But so if you're eating things that you're sensitive to and it's keeping you inflamed, you're not going to drop weight like
No,
you
you're
think
not.
that you should.
Right.
It's going to affect your hormones, right? It's going to affect all that.
And then I know we're both big fans of, vitamin D and how important it is and how many people, lack it in general. And when vitamin D levels are at their highest, the risk of disease is at the lowest.
Yep.
Love that. I'm going to use that as much as I can. Which is awesome. So how do you test for vitamin D? What is that?
Yeah, it's just a blood test.
Oh,
So,
okay.
if you go to, if your medical doctor is testing you for it, they're probably going to do a venous draw,
Okay.
right? So they're going to go in with a puncture and they're going to pull out a vial and then they're going to test for vitamin D and probably several other things.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the testing that we use is what's called a dried blood test.
Yep.
So you've seen it, you get a little card, it's going to have circles on it. You poke a little hole in your finger, which I know is your favorite thing in the world to do.
I hate it.
And then you just drip blood in those circles, and then we send it to the lab. The lab tests it and sends it back. Very simple thing that can be done. You can do it in your own house.
Yes.
And then you get the results.
I love the one. So I recently, speaking of vitamin D, I know we're talking in relation to heart health, but it's important. My fiance and I have been supplementing with Vitelio's vitamin D, and it's a chewable. I'm not even kidding. Like I've noticed a difference in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Seriously. it's awesome. So now, and me just being a nerd, whatever, I'm like, yay, this isn't helping my heart health. But, it doesn't, I know this sounds crazy, but I kind of like that it was a chewable. It makes me excited to take my vitamin D, It's like the Flintstones multivitamin. Anyway, that I had.
My wife, because it's chocolate flavored, right?
Yes,
so
love it.
Michelle said it's like her dessert.
It is
when she takes it. So
delicious. Billy's like, can I just have the whole bottle? And I'm like, let's not go there. Anyway. All right, moving on to kind of wrap up this series. We're going to do another video continuing this, but John, where are we at? Let's see. Test and handle homocysteine. I remember that in school, homocysteine levels. So get your B's. What's all that? Manage your omegas, food allergy testing. We talked about that. When is an almond or an avocado bad?
When you're sensitive to it, right?
That's so true. Foods that are in your body are developed in immune response. Speaking of allergy and sensitivity, just to touch base on that, so many people say you're correct. I'm allergic to eggs. Okay. I think people just aren't familiar with the difference between allergy and sensitivity. Like you said, allergy, we're talking serious, which it's a lot of people know, like peanut and fish allergy. Those are like the most common. We're talking, which I've seen people, unfortunately, it's this very scary sight, go into a seizure, their tongue swelling, they're red, they are foaming at the mouth. It's very scary and it's very real. That is an allergy. That is a very serious allergy. And sensitivity, like you said, it's inflammation that the gut just is not happy. And then that causes more inflammation in relation to heart health. And I just wanted to kind of clear that up for most people, because I get that question a lot. Well, I'm allergic. Well, I'm sensitive. Well, just totally different. So
yeah.
Let's move on to maximize magnesium. Ooh, that's a good one too. You just recently talked about that. I've recently started supplementing with that too. Talk to me about how magnesium plays a substantial role in reducing inflammation. Wow. I honestly, we didn't really touch base on magnesium. So I'd like to learn from you.
Well, so there are well over 3,000 magnesium binding sites.
Okay.
And about 500 enzymes in your body that rely on magnesium.
Okay.
So when you have low levels of magnesium, that gets associated again with cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular deaths, because those enzymes can't function the way that they're supposed to function.
Okay.
All right.
So it's basically needed for functional purposes per se.
Yeah, and your body wants to keep magnesium and calcium in a balance.
Okay.
So if magnesium is low, your calcium is going to be low.
Okay.
Okay, and so magnesium high, calcium comes up high.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
So when you have magnesium issues, or a lack of magnesium, it's more than just the effect that has on the enzymes in your body. It's also the effect it's going to have on your calcium levels, which is going to have an effect on your bones, those kinds of things too.
So I feel like the common denominator here is, when vitamin D levels are high, disease, is at its lowest. When magnesium and calcium are high, again, we're trying to decrease disease. I feel like all of this is in relation to just getting tested. Like you said, this is a great way, like we spoke about, instead of maybe putting a patient on statins, let's see where their levels are first and then come up with a game plan in relation to heart disease, right?
Yeah. So simple, a couple ways that a person can act on this is, one, like we mentioned at the start of this thing, is like, let's just start to get out and move.
Yep.
Let's eat some more vegetables and some less carbs, less processed carbs.
Yeah.
And let's try to do it that way, right?
Yes.
If you want to get more specific about it, because there are issues in your family with it, or that you're high risk to have high cholesterol. You've got a mirror, how you eat, your lack of activity.
Yep.
And so, I've probably got an issue developing, then I would get tested. And then that way you can get more specific about exactly what needs to be done. Again, I keep referencing back to other podcasts that we've done, but we talk about before about your food. Your food is the main thing, right? It's the tile on your floor.
Yeah.
And then the supplementation is the grout around it. And so we got to start with the food.
Yep.
Either way, whether you get tested or not tested, you've got to start with the food and what you put in your body. You're going to need to get out and move. And then if you're tested, we can supplement on here. If you're not tested, we can raise your vitamin. You can take a vitamin D supplement. You just don't know exactly if you need to bump that up or not.
Yeah.
If you're not tested. So.
I agree. And ending, today's series. I mean, it's heart disease is just, how long have we been on here? And like we said, every 40 seconds, someone passes away. I mean, that's it blows my mind. And like we said, with the supplementation, I think it's so important to start with your food. And that's what we're going to talk about in our next podcast, is just getting, talking about the specific foods and anti-inflammatory foods and so on and so forth. So this is a great podcast. I loved it. I think this is so relevant to so many different people, kids, teenagers, adults, elderly. And like you said, John, it's never too late to start. It's never too late to start. So with that being said, any final thoughts?
No, I guess, if you're listening to this, hit like, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do on this
hit
thing?
Hit like and subscribe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. But if you don't like it, hit like anyway. I mean, be positive.
Yeah. Be positive. Still hit like and subscribe. All right, guys. See you in our next one.
Bye.